You know, when I took over the program, I was trying to think about a way to get alumni back, because I really think that the alumni that have graduated from this institution, SHS, have really given a lot to this program, and I was looking at a way to kind of get them back involved. And I kind of thought about the idea a couple years ago, but I didn't really have any traction with it, and we were talking a while ago, and that kind of maybe last year, to see if I could. A lot of things were going on, and it was really busy. But I have to kind of give credit to my high school coach, because at Matawan they have this, and they've had it yearly for the past 3 years, playing former schools, and I was invited to play, and I passed up the opportunity, and I regretted it. You know, because who doesn't want to get a chance to relive that moment, to run on the field and put the pads back on. So I thought, here's an opportunity to give our former alumni a chance to say, hey, let's put them on one more time. Just that feeling alone, I think, it can do a lot for people who, really enjoyed this game. I've done some legwork prior to this. We've been looking at the rules and different policies that we want to have. But the first thing I needed to do was get an opposing team. And with Coldwater and Sturgis no longer playing for the Silver Football anymore, I thought maybe we could get Coldwater and Sturgis playing an alumni game. And maybe we can even get a trophy out of this one too yearly. And so it kind of started with a conversation I had with Coldwater's coach and asked if he was interested. And he suggested, he actually said to me that he was. He said I was AD, and he said, yeah, this sounds like a great idea. Give me a call back. And so then I kind of worked out things with our AD and just conversational pieces and just, very beginning stages, and kind of said, okay, we now need to put the feelers out to see if we can even field teams, because that's the biggest part here. And so once we kind of got the background, the behind the scenes, ideas settled, and we're still working, Coach and I are still working on that, we now looked at and say, okay, how can we build this roster? And so that's really where we are now, and saying, hey, we got to get people who are alums of both Coldwater and Sturgis this information to say, hey, here's an opportunity to play some football again. The nice thing is I've been here for 10 years as an assistant prior to being a head coach, and so I'm going to reach out to the kids that have been a part of the programs I've been a part of first. And then, I got Dave Northrup on staff, who was in the 80s, and so I would like to look for him to bring me some ties. And then we have an assistant coach that coaches JV that was on the 90s, during the 90s era, so I would like to get some of those guys back. I'm going to try to do a lot of the legwork here, because I want the alumni to feel like, hey, this is a place where we want you to come back to and just cherish. But also because I want to make sure that it's kind of a balanced. We were talking, Coach and I from Coldwater were talking, and we don't want it to be a last year, 2 years out kind of game where it's just a bunch of 18 and 19-year-olds. We're looking, and I'm looking, even a possibility, and not to play an entire game, but maybe get some of those guys from that 69 team to take a couple snaps, and run again on the field and suit up. And there's a lot of rules that we're going to put in place that safety is a priority, and so I'm just looking for that idea to kind of spawn and say, hey, if we can get some from the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and of course the 2000s, and then the last couple years, I'll be ecstatic. Well, and that's the one thing when I was talking to the Matawan coaches, when I was thinking about this, I asked him, I said, how many people show up? And he said they had close to like 1,200 fans just on their side alone. And the opposing team brought, I think he said somewhere between 700 and 800 fans. So, we got 2,000 fans watching a football game of former alum. And I thought to myself, okay, if we can pull those numbers, that'd be great, And then you start thinking about alumni with families. And so I think we can, and that's very achievable to say, hey, we could probably get close to 2,500 people here. Coldwater's close enough where the drive shouldn't be discouraging to people. And plus, we got, we're going to have players on that team that maybe are living around this area, and so their families will be willing to drive in and watch them play. Like a set of silver shoulder pads or something. We haven't, Coach and I haven't discussed that really, but we thought this would kind of be cool to continue that tradition. because it is disappointing that we're not, Coldwater and Sturgis are not going to play in the regular season again, and this I thought would be an opportunity to continue. And if we do, I've heard some suggestions from some people to say, get the old one back out, the one that was beat up, and that's in the trophy case right now. But I would not mind, putting something together that was something that resembled another trophy that this game could represent. The logistics part is almost done, but yeah, we talked about that. Possibly the game would be held here to open up, to kick it off, and then we'd go to Coldwater, and then would be if we need to work anything out where if a field wasn't usable, then we would, switch. But yeah, the plan is just to alternate years, and I know some schools, the one school hosts, this is because the school's in better, the turf is much better, and so if that's what it is, that's what it is. But yeah, right now we're just looking at every other year we just rotate. One of the biggest things that we look at every year is how to fundraise money for our program, because football is not an inexpensive sport. There's a lot of cost to it, and what I really like to do is I would like to have this be our main fundraiser. I don't know what Coldwater's plan is, but I think we could bring in some revenue here. And with that being said, what I like to do is take that a little bit of responsibility away from the kids that are players, and so there's no excuse why they can't come out or why they can't do things, we can't fundraise or yada yada yada. I'm looking at it from this the aspect of, hey, here's what I'm putting together. I'm going to ask for your guys' help, whether it's setting up the field or water or whatever we have to do, kind of that background piece. But then I'm just looking to say, hey, let's just sit back and let's watch some football. And my plan is even this, because I'm not an alumni of SHS, is once we kind of field the team, that I would say, hey, you guys got some people that are close here. I'll open the weight room. I'll come in and I'll open, I'll let us use the facilities, whatever you need. And I want to be that kind of person, but I want to just say, hey, I'm here for you. Whatever you need, let's see what we can make happen and go from there. But ultimately, this is something I want us to see, want to continue, so that this can be a major fundraiser for us in the future. The rules that I've seen other schools use, they usually start out with just a helmet, kind of a practice, and then they kind of go into helmet, shoulder pads, very similar to how we do, and then full pads. And I was looking maybe a 6 practice prior to the game. Maybe if we can play the game later in July, that we're looking at probably a late, maybe a June, maybe off for the 4th, and then come back following the 4th of July and have a couple practices. So that it can refresh a little bit, and when you step on the field on that Friday night, that it's not brand new, that you've had the pads on, that you've practiced a little bit, there's some contact that's been made. And again, with that, I just think it's going to be new for the guys who just graduated a couple years out. That's going to be familiar for them, but definitely looking at it, the speed of the game and every other aspect is going to change. But it still, I think, could be an amazing event that brings great memories for these guys. I've seen my buddy of Matt when he plays still in it, and there was photos of it. They had the media come out and take some photos, and I saw a photo of them once. He's got the guys out there in the shoulder pads and helmet, and they're flipping tires, and they're running through things, and so they're just putting them through a cardio workout just because, it's different. When you have pads on, it's a different feeling, especially when you haven't worn them in a while. And so the cardio aspect is what they're trying to really encourage, to say, hey, you want to be ready. And I'm looking for a nice set of numbers, a healthy set of numbers, so that you don't have to play the entire game. That you just get some rotation in, and you can chat it up on the sideline, and really make this a community thing where people are looking and say, hey, look at that number, 12. Who is that? Oh. I'm kind of hoping the guys that come, we can get them their own unique number, and so that's what they had when they played, and kind of go from there. Last year, I actually, when I was thinking about it, I was talking to some former alums, and that's the first thing that came out of their mouth was, okay, I got to see what my wife's going to say about this. And really, that's some pieces that we want to look at, because we want safety first, and so there's going to be some requirements we're going to put in place for that. But I imagine spouses are going to have a big play in this, or big say in this, because they're going to want to make sure their husbands can function. And that's kind of where we were looking at too. Pro Bowl set of rules. Again, we're not out to try to kill each other. We're out, no cuts. We're not taken down that way. We're staying high and everything that we have established through rules. And so we want it to be a safe place. Football's a dangerous sport, but I want to try to make sure the safety is a high priority for us. Bare minimum, through conversations I've had with other schools, if we could hit the 30 mark, because then you're looking at maybe a 2-deep roster on both sides of the ball. I think ideal, though, for me, what I'd really love to see is closer to 45. I think 45 people gives multiple positions, like a depth chart, so it gets people in. And I want people to feel like they've signed up for something and they're actually going to play, and not be like, oh, we're waiting. So I don't want the number to be too great, but I think 45 would probably be a really nice number to have. With that being said, I think a couple of things we're looking at with that number is the policy on insurance. One of the things we want to make sure is that the players that are for both teams have insurance policy. That's going to be critical because if anything happens, I want to make sure that worst case that they have some insurance to help, treat whatever comes out of this. And with that number 2, I think 45, we get a sense of alumni, which is kind of what is really the big idea of this whole thing is that I get guys back here. And even I was talking to my wife, who is a alumni from here, and I said, do you think there would be people in your classes that would play? And she said, yeah, maybe. And so I'm going to get on the phone and call some guys up and say, hey, there's a spot for you, if you kind of want it, And what I'm thinking of, too, is when we publish the contact information, just I'm not going to cut it off. If we have 50 players, then we'll have 50 players. But if Coldwater, has 20 and we have 25, we're going to really have to look and evaluate to see if it's worth it. But I was trying to get a little buzz today on a football meeting I had after school just to say, I'm throwing it out there. There might be a great possibility. And I saw some kids who had some siblings that had graduated in our programs a while back, kind of their faces light up and think, well, this could be fun. So plus, it's something to look forward to when you graduate from the program here, that, hey, I want you to come back and I want you to play. So, and we got a lot of guys going to play football, so that might be an issue. Coach and I are going to have to talk about the rules, and I imagine guys going anyways aren't going to play, and that's absolutely fine with me. But when they're done playing, and if their careers, they still want to suit up, there's a spot for them.